All right, I'd like to welcome you all to the candidate forum here at the Community Center. We'll be talking with candidates in 5 contested local races. The 3 of them in the county courthouse itself, as in addition to the state representative for District 116 and the circuit judge for Circuit 24, Division 1. My name is Toby Carrick. I'm the editor of the St. Genevieve Herald. I'd like to thank all of you who came out tonight to listen to candidates. I'd also like to thank all the candidates for participating and for making the commitment to run for public office. The event is co-sponsored by the St. Genevieve Herald and by St. Genevieve Community Access Television, which is channel 991 on the charter cable. They also have stgentv.com and they have a YouTube station. Tonight's event is going to be taped by the TV station. It'll be shown on the public access television in addition to being available on the internet. Before we begin tonight, I want to introduce the candidates who will be on the November ballot but won't be opposed. And there are 5 races that are on the county ballot that are not opposed. That includes Associate Circuit Judge Timothy Inman in the back. If you could say hi to the camera here. County Clerk is Sue Wolk. Candidate for County Treasurer, Sarah Hogue. Recorder of Deeds, Peggy Yinitz. I'm not sure if she's here or not. And prosecuting attorney candidate, Wayne Williams. The questions are not disclosed to candidates beforehand. They are influenced by multiple factors, including the candidate's information that's been provided and was published in the Herald this week. That information includes what they see as the issues and solutions for those particular offices. We also received questions from readers of the newspaper who sent in quite a few emails this year, more than usual, and included more questions for presiding commissioner candidates than we'd have time to ask tonight. But I thank those people who submitted their questions. The goal in crafting the questions is to be fair for all candidates to answer the same question and give them a chance to reveal their qualifications and skills for office. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening introduction, and then they will have 1 minute to answer the questions themselves. They will also have a 1-minute closing statement at the end of that session for those candidates. We begin tonight with state representatives for District 116. Running to succeed Republican Kevin Engler, our Republican Del Wright, and Democrat Bill Kraemer. And Mr. Wright, you begin with the 2-minute opening statement.
You want to do it here?
Okay, there you go.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thanks for all of you being here. I'd like to thank the Herald and the Public Access TV for sponsoring this and hosting this. You know, when you run for office, you kind of put yourself out there, and I've never really done this before. I'm a businessman by trade. I just want you to know this has not been that stressful, although 6 months ago I had a full head of thick black wavy hair. And now look, I'm just a shell of myself. But I'm delighted to be here tonight, and I appreciate the opportunity of telling you who I am. Again, my name is Dale Wright, and I've been a businessman for many years. Most of my life has been in the healthcare field, where I worked in hospital administration, running supply chains, and then in administration for a couple of hospitals. The last several years, I have worked for a company in St. Louis called Amerinet. They're now called Inteleer. And we were a national company with about 90,000 hospitals, clinics, nursing homes, any kind of a healthcare provider across the United States. And my job there was I was president of one of their subsidiary companies called Amerinet Choice, which we partnered with national manufacturers of healthcare products. They would make the products and put our name on it, and then we would mark that to our members. Then I was also the chief contracting officer, which in most companies is the chief operating officer for Amerinet. And again, we worked with national companies. We were actually the customer of these companies. And I had just the amazing opportunity of working with some of the world's best companies and their executive teams, 3M, Johnson & Johnson, Kimberly-Clark, DuPont, Sprint, Verizon. And so I had the opportunity of working with all of those companies, and not only working with them, but also learning from them on how business is run and what we should be doing to make sure that we provide good patient care.
And Mr. Kraemer?
Hey, hello, and thanks everybody for showing up. Boy, talk about a contrast between him and I often refer to this as David and Goliath. My name is Bill Kraemer. I'm from here in St. Genevieve. I'm a union miner. I've been a union miner at Tower Rock Stone for the last 25 years. Before that, I was a deputy sheriff for St. Genevieve County also. And I was asked to run on, I think, 2 days before filing, the end of filing. And I just decided that it was, after the fight we were putting in with this right to work mess that we got ourselves into, that this was my way of standing up for what I believe in. So that's what I did. I decided to file and try and make a difference. I don't have the business experience. I have just basic human experience, life experiences. I've raised my family in St. Genevieve. We've done a good job raising our family. We've raised our family with high morals, and we've survived on little at times. I mean, when I was a young father, I fed my children with a lot of times just eggs and pancakes. It was just that way, you know, that you got to make do with what you got. And I've worked my way up to where I feel like I have seen a lot as far as living a lifestyle humbly. And I think a lot of the people in this district and in this area, as a matter of fact, have lived the same type of lifestyle that I have lived in. I'm still working. I currently work at Tower Rock Stone. I work 9 hours a day, 6 days a week. I'm also an officer with my local union. So after work, I get to go to work. So I'm getting the 10-second rule, so I better abide by it. I don't want to get anything thrown at me. Thank you very much.
My first question is, why do you feel, I'll start with Mr. Kraemer and work backwards and take turns like that. Why do you feel you are qualified to represent the district in Jefferson City?
Well, again, going back to just my life experiences, I feel like I represent a lot of the way people have grown up and been raised in this area. I've struggled to feed my family. I've worked hard all my life, and I just feel like I'm in touch with the average person. I don't know how else to put it. I feel like a lot of people in this district have struggled. They have made their niche in life, and they have worked their way up. And that's where I'm coming from. So.
Mr. Wright?
Thank you. I believe that I am prepared to be the state rep. I actually, most of the summer, I went up to Jefferson City on my own dime to try to learn how things worked in Jefferson City. It's very complex up there, and a lot of it went over my head, but I was also able to gain a lot of knowledge going up there, shadowing the existing legislators and learning how things work up there. So I believe that I'm prepared for that. I mentioned that I work with several large companies. I really believe because of relationships with them, you know, these are companies that are world-class companies that are expanding. Well, why not expand here? You know, if we can use perhaps my relationship with some of these companies to bring more industry into the St. Genevieve, Perry, and St. Francis counties, why not do that? So I would like to do that. And then finally, I just want you to know I was instrumental in getting the governor here this past week. And I have a relationship with the office there, and I was able to get him here. And again, that's what it takes to be an advocate for the people in St. Genevieve County, to be an advocate and a spokesman for the citizens.
Thank you. Next question, we'll begin with Mr. Wright. Do you consider yourself pro-choice or pro-life? And are there circumstances where you make exceptions to your position? For instance, situations when abortion should be allowed or circumstances when they should not be allowed?
Well, I am, the number one issue that I'm running on is pro-life. I'm a pro-life candidate. I would say the only exceptions would be if the mother's life is in danger or rape or incest. Those would be the only issue, the only way that I would consider having an abortion. I have advocated that my whole life, and there are certain things that you do when you're voting. You have issues of conscience, you have issues of the constituents, and you have issues of your caucus or your party. Abortion is one of those things of the conscience. No matter whether you're pro or not, as far as abortion, I will not bend on abortion whatsoever. I believe it's the sanctity of life.
Mr. Kraemer?
Well said, Dale. I wish I had gone first. You know, I'm going to mirror pretty much everything that he said as well. You know, this is one of the things that my wife and I discussed before we got married, and I think every couple should be on that page. I think everyone needs to discuss that, and that was part of what we agreed on when we got married, is that we were both pro-life. So I stand, you know, in the same platform as Dale with that. You know, a human life is a human life. It just can't be disregarded.
All right.
You were getting ready to hold up that tablet.
No, we have plenty of
Yeah,
time.
you were. I saw you.
I'll begin with you this time, Mr. Kraemer. On the issue of gun rights and gun control, do you feel Missouri's current laws are adequate, or would you like to see changes in one direction or the other in the future?
I'm fine right now with the way gun laws are. I don't see really any changes. I don't know. You're asking me to speculate on changes, and it's hard for me to give you an answer on speculation because I don't know what it would be. Right now I'm fine with status quo. I'm an avid hunter. I target shoot. I have a membership up at Top Gun. I go up there once or twice a month and shoot. I've always have been a shooting fan. My father brought me up to respect guns and how to use guns, and I've passed that on to my children and grandchildren, and you know, I'm a responsible gun owner. Every gun that I have is under lock and key. It's in a safe, and that room that the safe is in is under video surveillance at all times. So I just hope, I would hope everyone would, there's that tablet. I would hope everyone would just be a responsible gun owner and keep them under lock and key.
Well, I'm a staunch here I am again, pro-gun Second Amendment candidate. I've been endorsed by the NRA. I have an AQ rating, and so I appreciate that. And I would also tell you that there are the liberals out there who would like to take the guns away from all of us. And so Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens has been recently retired, but he kind of let the cat out of the bag of how the liberals are thinking. He, as a past Supreme Court judge, said that it's probably time that the Second Amendment has outlived its usefulness. Now think about that. The liberals think that our Second Amendment is no longer useful, and to me that means that we probably shouldn't have our guns.
Thank you very much. Next question, I'll give you guys a little extra time because it's going to be related to the topic of labor issues. Local representatives stood apart from the Republican Party statewide on the topic of right to work. Missouri voters, especially those in St. Genevieve County, rejected right to work in August. And this November, there's a ballot question on minimum wage. Where do you stand on the minimum wage proposition? And if you get to Jeff City, what would be your stance on right to work and prevailing wage proposals? Mr. Wright.
Okay. I've been endorsed by several of the labor unions. I have committed to them that the people have spoken, and I've committed to the unions that I will not ever try to overturn the will of the people. The core word of state representative is representative. We represent the people. The people have spoken, and so we need to make sure that we represent the will and the wishes of the people. As far as the minimum wage, I think that we do need to raise our wages for our working classes. I think it has to be done in a measured timetable. I used to own some small restaurants, the Branding Iron Barbecue, for any of you who came to the Branding Iron Barbecue in Farmington and Jackson. If we had gotten drastic hourly increases, it would have put us out of business. But I am for gradual increases for minimum wage.
Okay, so that's why I guess I'm gonna start off where you left off, and that would be for minimum wage. I am 100% for minimum wage. It just gives people a lot of self-respect to be able to provide for themselves. And I think it's been done in a good fashion. It's a gradual step up over, what is it, a 5-year period, 85 cents a year, which I think businesses will be able to adjust to accordingly. Going into right to work, I think everybody in this room, anyone who knows me knows where I stand on right to work. And I'm extremely proud to sit here and tell you that St. Genevieve County was the #1 county in voting down Proposition 8. We were the second per capita in the state of Missouri, but we were the #1 county as far as voting it down. And I fought that fight for 2 years with my local brothers and sisters. A lot of teachers from Farmington, St. Genevieve came up and helped out with all of our petition drives and rallies that we had up at our Union Hall. St. Genevieve was just a model city for fighting this right to work. And as a matter of fact, Toby, you came up one time. Kevin Engler came up and joined in one of our labor rallies that we had up at the Union Hall that was hosted by the Democratic Party, and it was just a real blowout. And I totally support labor. I mean, like I said, I'm a union miner, have been for the last 25 years. So that pretty well tell you where I stand on it.
Right.
Thank you.
The next question is, how would you like to see the state, if elected, how would you like to see the state government address the opioid issues in the district and the state? Mr. Kraemer.
You know, I wish I had the perfect answer to this. How to address the opioid problem. I was way disappointed them to back up to the right to work thing, that they put right to work over the opioid problem. I mean, in 2016 we had, help me out, like 910 people in 2016 die, and then in 2017 we had almost 1,000 people die, and right to work was a priority, not the opioid problem that's sweeping across our nation. What to do? Less opioids, for one thing. You know, I don't think people need the amounts that are given out. They're given 30-day supplies for some of the most minor injuries. I think that would be a place to start. Governor Parsons has come out and said that he is going to face this problem, and I would love to work with Governor Parsons. I would love to work with anybody. I don't care what side of the aisle. I don't care who they are. Anything that can be done to curb this. And I think one of the big things we need to do is quit prescribing as many and have refills. I see it. Thank you.
Well, I think one thing that we should do, currently, there are drug monitoring, prescription drug monitoring systems out there, but it's done by health system. We need a statewide prescription drug monitoring program to where if someone gets a prescription in Kansas City, they can't come over to St. Louis and get another prescription. They need to be able to see on the same system that, oh my goodness, someone's already prescribed that for you. We need to give you a different type of solution. I would also say, because again of the job I've been on, and I do some consulting, I've had the opportunity of actually leading a national initiative on opioids. A company called Pacera has a drug called Exparel, whereby it can be administered locally, localized. So for instance, if you have knee surgery, you can have an injection in your knee, and it has a slow release over a 4 to 5 day period, to where now you don't have to have it injected through your whole body, to where you get hooked on the opioids and the fentanyls. And so I think that we need to do those two things at least.
Thank you very much. Let me ask you a question about health insurance and how you would like to see the state move forward in terms of regulating the health insurance industry.
Well, you know, the health insurance industry, sometimes they run amok. You know, they go unbridled in some cases. I think that we need to create more group policies. We need to allow groups of like-type industries come together and create buying co-ops to where they can buy the insurances less expensively. You have more leverage when you have more volume. And so I think we need to do that. I also think we need to make sure that insurance policies can cross state lines, where sometimes that does not happen. And so I think we just need to relook at that, and we need to re-examine, you know, all of those things.
Mr. Kraemer?
Yeah, and I'm not a guru on health insurance. I'm really not, other than mine has been changed several times. I've been blessed with good health insurance that we have bargained for through our union. But not everybody's entitled to that. And I went to a program not too long ago about Medicare for All down in Perryville, and that was a very interesting concept. I had never heard of that. I would really like to look into that a little bit more and just investigate it. I know there are countries that are on a system like that, and it works. So, you know, I don't, like I said, I haven't been involved that much with insurance, so I can't really give you a concrete answer, other than I would be very in favor of looking into the Medicare for All.
All right. This will be my last question before the closing statements. Does party affiliation matter in this job? And why do you feel the district would be served either best by a Republican as part of a supermajority, or a dissenter from the Democratic Party? Mr. Kraemer.
Does party, how was that phrase?
Does party matter in the position? And
Does party matter in the position? Well, I would say it does. I mean, after this last good go-around we had with Right to Work, I mean, it passed through the House in lightning speed and was placed, you know, it was made into a law because of a party. So, to me, that part does. As far as working together, I think all of us can work together. I know certainly, in talking to Dale a little bit, I know of him, you know, we've had some really good discussions, and I would have no problem talking to someone as like-minded as him. So, you know, yes, party matters. I would like to see more Democrats up there, so we would have a voice or a stopgap to stop another Right to Work, because there are people up there that have said it's going to happen again. They're going to try and push it through again, and it's, people have spoke. I'd like to see our governor say just what you said. It's done. The people have spoke. It's over. And I don't think he's come out and publicly said that yet. So hopefully we won't have another battle in January.
Mr. Wright?
Well, this particular time, party does always matter, and at this particular time, there is a supermajority of Republicans in Jefferson City. And so, and again, I witnessed this myself. Anytime the Democratic Party or the independents tried to bring up a bill, they were basically pushed back. They had no word, and so you don't have representation. The same thing whenever the Democrats have a supermajority, the same thing happens to the Republicans. So at this point in time in our history, and I'm saying this because it's self-serving, I understand, but we need to have a Republican up there so you have a voice who can speak and work with the other people in the caucus to get your representation done. Finally, I would just say I'm very conservative, but in the Democratic Party, Chuck Schumer said there's no place in the Democratic Party for pro-lifers. Now, he said that. And so most of us, I believe, are pro-lifers. I want you to be aware that we in the Republican Party are pro-life all the way through.
And Mr. Wright, 1 minute for your closing statement then.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for having us here. Bill, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill.
I think I gave him a heart attack primary night. I went over to the Democratic headquarters and introduced myself, and I committed to him, and he committed to me that this would be a clean a race between the two of us, and it has been, and I just commend you for that. I would just ask all of you to consider who we are, what we can bring to this office. I am very excited about the opportunity of representing you. I want to represent you. I hope you can see the passion in my eyes and my heart and my voice that I want to be a representative for you. I'm retired from work, and so this is what I plan on doing full time, is representing you. So thank you for this opportunity, Toby, and everyone being here tonight.
Mr. Kraemer?
Okay, well, let me just start off by thanking everybody for taking interest in this process. I mean, I know that there's a lot of candidates and a lot of candidates' families, but I know there's also a lot of people up here that are just here out of pure interest, and I appreciate that. I'm asking you for your vote on November the 6th, and I think you know where I stand on everything. I want to try and get up and up to under the dome, so to speak, and try and do something with the opioids, and I want to be a labor candidate up there. As Dale said, he came over to the Union Hall the night of the primary, and I was soaking wet. I'd been standing out in the rain for 14 hours, and my boots had about 1/4 inch of rain, and he came in his nice press suit and introduced himself, and the first words out of his mouth, I don't know, you remember, am I safe here? So, you know, which I thought was great, you know, he's safe anywhere. But it's been a very humbling experience. I've met some wonderful people, and again, you know, thank you so much for giving me the time and your support. And Toby's getting ready to hold up the 10-second marker. And I tell you what, running against somebody with the last name of Wright is not easy. Let me tell you. You talk about having dark hair. I tell you what, try running against someone named Wright. The only better would be Mr. Perfect, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's where I stand. Thank you so much for your attendance tonight.
Thank you.
All right, we have the candidates for test. Okay. We have candidates for judge for the 24th Circuit Court, Division 1. The candidates are Democrat incumbent Sandra Martinez and Republican challenger Jerel Lee Poor II. And Mr. Poor will begin with a 2-minute opening statement. I don't know if you can see me down here, but I hold this up with about 10-second warning. So.
Thank you. My name is Jerel Lee Poor II, and I'm running for Circuit Court Judge. This seat encompasses the counties of St. Genevieve, St. Francis, Washington, and Madison. This November, I'm asking you to vote Poor for Judge. I'm a corporate attorney and I live in Bloomsdale. I'm a native Missourian and I've lived here all my life. My dad is an auto mechanic and small business owner. Growing up, my dad never asked us if we were going to college, but rather where we were going to college. As a result, all three of his kids have master's degrees. I got my BA and MBA from Lindenwood University. I received my Juris Doctor from St. Louis University, and I'm very proud of my Jesuit education. In addition to that, I'm also an Eagle Scout. My big sister Christy is a manager at the VA, and my little sister Jessica is an IT manager at Boeing. My mother Linda lost her battle to cancer at the age of 55, and she taught us that if you see a problem, you work to fix it. She was the first one in her family to graduate from college, and she was a graduate from SLU. She was a small business owner and the treasurer at a local food pantry. I love St. Genevieve County, and this is my home. I'm well aware of the challenges that I face, and I'm determined to fix them. I also believe that I have the experience and education necessary to complete my task. Again, my name is Jerel Lee Poor II. I'm running for 24th Circuit Court Judge, and I ask for your vote this November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sandra Martinez, and thank you so much for having this forum. It's a great way for voters to get to know us better. I have served as your circuit judge for almost 18 years. Now, don't let that fool you. I started when I was just a baby. I started out as a public defender, and I worked as a public defender in St. Francis County. I was then hired as an assistant prosecutor in St. Francis County. I then elected as the first female prosecuting attorney in St. Francis County. As a public defender, prosecutor, I tried numerous cases. I've been before the court. I have spent my entire career in the courtroom. I've spent my entire career in public service. I was elected circuit judge in 2000, and I have served as your circuit judge since then. I've presided over numerous felony cases, murder cases, capital cases, juvenile cases, civil cases, and I could sit here and tell you all day how hard I work, because obviously that's where we're going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, I don't work, I'm lazy. I'm going to tell you how hard I work, how much I've done. What I'd like you to do is talk to your clerks. Your clerks know your judges better than anyone else, and they will tell you who your judges are. Do they work? What kind of cases do they do? And I tell you proudly that we have some amazing clerks here. You really do. And you ask them, how does Judge Martinez do? Does she work? Does she do her job? And I am confident that they would tell you that I have served this community for a very long time, and I work very hard. I came from a poor family. I had to work as a cashier for many years to put myself through school. My parents could not afford school. My dad was a law enforcement officer, and my mom worked very hard at home raising 5 kids. And so I tell kids, I started a program many years ago. It was an attendance program, and I tell kids, you can be whatever you want to be. Look at me. I'm not the smartest, there's nothing really great about me, except for the fact that my parents taught me work ethic, and that's why I'm here. I love my job, I love what I do, I've been doing it for 18 years, and I hope to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. What characteristics do you believe make a good judge, and how have you displayed those characteristics?
I think a good judge is one who works very hard, but more important, to me, a judge is a person who doesn't act like a judge. And that's something I learned from my parents. My mom and dad weren't judges or lawyers or doctors, and I'll tell you what, they're the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. Also, to be a judge, you have to be fair. And you have to remember that it's not your opinions that matter. I was in court one day, and I had a witness look at me and say, well, Judge, I know you don't like that kind of stuff. And I looked at that witness and I said, you know what? What I think doesn't matter. What matters is the law. And I think as a good judge, you have to remember that. It's kind of hard because we all have biases. We all do. But as a good judge, you have to learn to put those biases aside and be fair and treat everybody fairly. And I pride myself, and again, ask those people who work with me, I pride myself in treating people every day the same way as if I was running for office. I'm not just nice to people when I run. I treat my clerks and everyone that works with me with respect. And I think as a judge, it's being humble, because it is a job. And I think that you've asked people, I'm a very humble person, because I worked very hard to get where I'm at.
Mr. Poor?
Thank you. I think honor, integrity, and respect are three very important qualities of a judge. I think I have all those qualities in spades. You can ask around and see what you think. You can ask the mayor of St. Genevieve what he thinks of me. I'm also, one of my biggest achievements that I'm still very proud of is that I'm an Eagle Scout. When I was doing that, I was about 17 years old, and the council didn't want me to do my Eagle Scout project because they believed that it was too big, too hard, and it would take way too much time. Because it would take hundreds and hundreds of work hours to build this structure which I was planning on building, which was a large outdoor eagle enclosure. And I had all the maps, everything all ready to go, and I convinced them that I can do it. And it took me a few weeks, but you know what? I did it. When I say something, I'm going to do it. And I think those kind of qualities are very important. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
How has your professional experience prepared you to serve as circuit judge, including any specific instances that may be helpful in courtroom situations?
Sure. So I started out as a solo attorney, and as a solo, you get to do all sorts of different things. So I have been in a courtroom. I have been in front of judges. I have done preliminary hearings when I was in law school. I've also worked for some very major firms like Bryan Cave in the city of St. Louis. So one of my jobs was I worked in the tallest building in the city of St. Louis and learned about cases. And right now I am a corporate attorney, so I have to work with all sorts of different kinds of laws. So not just laws in the United States, but laws in Canada, Europe, Brazil. And I think those kind of experiences has really uniquely prepared me to be a judge. Thank you.
I always say that what prepared me for a judge is when I worked as a cashier. I think a lot of it is your work ethic. And you learn how to work, and you learn to talk to people, you learn to meet people. Also, as I said earlier, I worked as a public defender. I've literally tried many jury trials. I've tried many bench trials. I've done pleas before the court. I have spent my entire career in the courtroom. I devoted my entire career to public service. And I think that what prepared me is what I've done throughout my career. The only time I didn't work in the courtroom was when I worked as a cashier. Other than that, my entire career has been presenting cases, hearing cases, trying cases. So I believe that I am obviously very qualified. And not only that, I love my job. And I've worked very hard at my job. And again, I ask you to ask those who have worked with me and who know my record, know how hard I work. As a matter of fact, I think one of the things they call me is a workaholic, because I do devote a lot of my time to this. And I believe that that's what qualifies me to serve as a circuit judge, or to continue serving as a circuit judge. Thank you.
What experience do you have that you find would be helpful in the case of juvenile cases?
I have served as the juvenile circuit judge for 17 years. I always tell people that those are the hardest cases you'll have to preside over. I've handled murder cases, I've handled burglary cases, I've handled just about every criminal case that you can think of. But the most difficult cases that I preside over are juvenile cases. And I do go home and pray a lot, because to me, when I have to decide the future of a child, it is so difficult. And I go home and I think very hard about the decisions I've made. And so I have actually served as the juvenile court judge for 17 years. And so I believe that I'm qualified because I've done it. And I'm a huge advocate for children. I started a program about 14 years ago called the ACES program. In St. Jim, we call it the AGES program. And it's a program to try and help do preventive programs for children to hopefully keep them out of the system.
Thank you. So juvenile cases are a little different than your standard case. A juvenile case is civil. It is not a criminal proceeding, so it's a little bit different. I don't have any specific experience in front of the juvenile courts, but I have done a lot of study in SLU and done seminars learning about the juvenile cases, not just here in the United States, but also overseas, because we have military bases, and I've written a paper about that. I think one of the most important things about the juvenile system is that we need to take advantage of every single resource available to us. including the CASA program. We are one of the only 4 counties out of a 20 contiguous county area surrounding us which has it. I think we really need to look into using that program so we can help children, because the public policy of our state is in the best interest of the child. And I believe that the best interest of the child is by taking advantage of every single resource possible. Thank you.
As I mentioned, we draw some questions from information submitted to the Herald newspaper, which ran this week. Mr. Poor submitted information that said he was aware of the challenges and the mess that awaits. And I'd like to ask for his assessment that led him to use that phrase, and then for Judge Martinez to give her response on that.
Sure, so the primary thing which I was talking about are Missouri Supreme Court cases, which have been overturned out of the First Circuit, or out of Division I, and also just various things that have been told to me. Primarily, if you're doing everything correctly, the Missouri Supreme Court won't overturn your cases, and they won't do the same thing, like they won't overturn the same type of case over and over again, or cite those cases in other cases. So that's really what I was talking about.
What Mr. Poor is talking about is the fact that as a circuit judge who sat on the bench almost 18 years, I have been reversed by the Court of Appeals and I have been reversed by the Supreme Court, which is very normal. I would ask you all to look across the state and talk to any circuit judge that's dealt with thousands of felony cases, misdemeanor cases, juvenile cases, and they will tell you that you do get reversed. It is what it is. I don't care how hard you work. I don't care what it is. And you know that the more work you do, those of you who work in the field, in any field, the more you do something, the harder you work, you're going to get reversed. The cases that they talk about in the Supreme Court that I got reversed is actually a case that's been in the media a lot, and they talk about me sending grandma to prison for court costs. I get criticized because when I place people on probation, one of the conditions of probation is that you pay your court costs. You agree to pay your court costs. So when you're on probation, I tell you, you have to pay your court costs. And there was a case that went up on the Supreme Court, and I would ask all of you to read that decision, because the Supreme Court almost apologized to the court and said, we are reversing you. We understand that you are only working with the defendant not to send them to prison, but we still think court costs shouldn't be grounds for you sending someone to prison. So those are the cases that we're talking about, but it's all on the record. There's documentation out there. I encourage all of you to read those cases, but having been reversed, of course, I've been on the bench 18 years and I worked very hard and I've done thousands of cases.
My last formal question before the closing statements would be, do you believe that a judge should have a role in his or her community? And if so, what type of involvement as a community leader do you think you should have?
Oh, definitely. I think that a judge, you have to be careful. We're very limited. When my kids were in school, I have 2 grown kids who graduated from Farmington High School. They went to middle school, and so there was fundraisers. And there's only so much you can do as a judge, because they don't let you do fundraisers, because they don't want you to use your status as a judge, because let's face it, most people would donate, the clerks and stuff. But what I do is, I told you earlier, I started this, what we call ACES program. I love this program. I started it 14 years ago, and I travel to different schools, and I meet with kids that are at risk of attendance and are dropping out of school. And I talk to them, and it's a really cute program because all we provide are small incentives like chips and soda and Coke. And I ask them, why does this work? We're not bringing you like really big things. And they say that it's so neat that a judge would take the time to come and meet with them. And I tell them, I said, that's pretty neat. So to me, a judge not only sits on the bench, you go out, you educate your kids, you work with the schools, you work with the community. I think that's what a judge does, and that's actually what I do.
Mr. Poor.
Thank you. As she said, that yes, the judge should go out and work in the community and try to make the community better. One thing that I would like to do if I get elected is to try to help the kids by taking advantage of the CASA program, which we haven't taken advantage of yet. And also, I'm really thankful that the Baptist Church out here allowed me to speak and give my testimony in September. So, yes, a judge should seek out and work in the community as much as possible, as according to the Missouri Code of Judicial Conduct.
Mr. Poor, you may begin the closing statements.
Okay. I have my prepared statement. So over the past year or so, I've been humbled by all the support and inspired by your stories. I'm just the son of a mechanic, the grandson of a pastor, the great-grandson of a Missouri farmer. I'm running for circuit court judge to promote a fair, independent, and impartial judiciary to ensure that everyone is treated fairly and equally under the law as prescribed by our Constitution. Justice is blind, and everyone, regardless of if they are rich or poor, black or white, Republican or Democrat, are entitled to equal protection under the law. Again, my name is Jerel Lee Poor II, and I ask for your vote on November 6th.
As I said, I have served as your judge for almost 18 years. I love my job. I love working. I love what I do. I love working with children. As I told you earlier, I came from a poor family. So it's like I tell kids at school, I am so blessed to be where I'm at. And just to tell you a really quick story, my dad was my best friend. And when I told him that I was going to run for prosecutor many years ago, almost 20 years ago, he looked at me and he said, you know what, you'd be really good at that because you like to talk a lot. You could talk to head of lettuce. And so he said, you know, that might work for you. And my dad was my biggest cheerleader. My dad passed away several years ago. I lost him to leukemia. But I have to tell you, when I was at his funeral, there was a bunch of law enforcement officers there. And they walked up to me and they opened their wallets and they pulled out this card. When I ran for prosecutor, I had made these little cards that said, oh, like Sandra Martinez for prosecutor. And all the detectives and law enforcement officers pulled out this little card that my dad was passing out in Texas. And so my dad was very proud of me, and I'm very proud of myself because I had to work very hard to get here. And I hope that you all vote me in to stay and continue doing what I do. I love my job. I've worked very hard, and I promise to continue to work hard for this community. Thank you very much for this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have the candidates for circuit clerk who are vying to succeed Democrat Diana Grass, who's retiring from office. We have Democrat Julie Bova and Republican Sarah Boyer. And we'll begin with the opening statement for 2 minutes from Ms. Boyer.
Hello, I'm Sarah Boyer. I have lived here all of my life for 34 years. I grew up in Weingarten. I have 5 children. Was married to their father for 11 years. I presently work at the juvenile office for our 24th Circuit. I do all the scheduling and preparing the court dockets for the main 3 judges and up to 6 judges. Create case numbers and process juvenile referrals. I work with the clerks closely throughout the circuit and the attorneys, law enforcement officials, and the local agencies and the public. I also worked at the circuit clerk's office under Diana Grass, where I started temporarily helping scan in older files and for e-filing, and then I helped with the traffic and criminal division, and we worked. I obtained my notary of public in 2016 while working for the juvenile office, and I've attended trainings for accounting and case processing. Prior to working to that, and oh my goodness, I'm joking. Anyways, there's a lot of things that I do for the juvenile office. I help with petitions and e-filing and doing all the notices. We do affidavits, we issue summons and everything. We use Missouri Sole Standard Software, JIS, and OSCA reports, which is used throughout all the circuit courts in the state. As part of our court system, I think we must remain neutral and serve each citizen equally and with the utmost respect. It's very important that the clerk stay informed on changing statutes and Supreme Court rules.
That'd be,
That's enough, sorry,
That's all right.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Julie Bova. Nice to see you all here, quite a crowd. I grew up in Dexter, Missouri, where my parents, Jerry and Janie Burleson, still reside. I've been married 21 years to David Bova. He is my rock. God bless him. We have 3 beautiful children. Kara Evans, who is a deputy at the Perry County Sheriff's Office, Allison Bova, who is a senior at Webster University, and Alexis Bova, who's a junior at St. John High School. I also have the distinct pleasure of being called Nana by a very special 10-year-old granddaughter named Autumn Evans. My husband and I decided to move to St. Genevieve in 2003. He grew up here, his family was here. We made that choice because of family, because it's a close-knit community, and because of the fact that our children would receive a great education. This town has 2 wonderful schools. I've gotten to know many people from the community from the time I worked at Windcrest Village Apartments, First Bank, MECOM, and now my home at the Circuit Clerk's Office. I started at the Circuit Clerk's Office in January of 2013. I was under the direction of Ms. Carol Steiger, who was the Circuit Clerk for 26 years, and the current Circuit Clerk, Diana Grass, who has been there as a Circuit Clerk for 4 years and worked there for over 20 plus years. My plan is to take the knowledge that those ladies have passed down and the training that I have received to make the transition from Deputy Clerk to Circuit Clerk to go very smoothly for everyone who interacts with our office. Thank you.
thank you. Since the person who will be elected will be providing some new leadership for the office, do you have any changes in mind?
You first.
Yes.
The most important thing would be cross-training. If anybody's ever came to our office, we have 2 different sides, criminal, civil side. We need to be more cross-trained so we're more efficient and we're able to deal with the public better, and everyone would have the knowledge of all the cases that we deal with. The other one would be we need to digitize our files. We have a lot of old files, paper files, and we need to get those scanned in because we have a public terminal where people can come and look at files, but no documents are in there on some of the older files, and we want to make it convenient for people to see.
While working in the circuit clerk's office, I noticed that as well, that the 2 sides need to be combined, and the finding of the files. I know when we would pull files, there were always files all over the place. You could never find them. It was always a search for them. So I would say a more organized filing system for the older files would be something that would need to be taken care of.
All right, on this question, we'll start with Ms. Boyer. Do you have a plan for implementing future programs such as Show Me Courts?
A training that I recently went to trained us about 10 minutes on that program. It was a very neat program because it was all on one screen. I think every courthouse should probably use that because it eliminates all the screens that you have to go through, all the steps, probably a lot less error for processing cases as well. So I would say, yes, I would be willing to use that.
So Show Me Courts is a new program that's being rolled out by OSCA. We are actually already using it in our office. We're using it for the traffic and the criminal cases, associate criminal cases. It is a great program that makes it easier for the clerks because we don't have to toggle through so many screens. We are able to get it all done in one screen. We've already started training on this. We've already got a clerk that is, quote, our expert at the Show Me Court, who is also helping train the rest of us on this as well.
All right. Thank you very much. We need to go wireless next time. Do you have a plan in place for staffing in regard to vacancies that'll be taking place through retirements, or how you might utilize state or other funds for staffing the office?
When we began e-filing, we did the clerical weighted workload. And with that, there was a new pay grid that was put out. Unfortunately, St. Genevieve is on a hiring freeze at the moment. But once the 2 people that plan to retire at the end of the year retire, we are able to ask for that to be opened up for 2 new employees. We are also able to apply for grants, and we have been able to get grants in the past few years, so that will help us also with an extra person in the office.
The same, we would have to, I guess, use the court system for hiring them, and like she said, the grants could be incorporated, because that is one thing that I started off on. That, and then just, I guess, asking the general public for placing ads for that.
Mm-hmm. We'll start with Ms. Boyer on this one. The office currently has historical paper records, as have been referenced, that are used by researchers and genealogists in an era when many things are done electronically. What are your plans in terms of digitizing records and at the same time preserving historic court documents?
Again, I guess if we could get a better system for the filing, to get the ones that are like stored downstairs in the basements and stuff, I believe those should be taken out of, if we had extra help or free time to get those scanned in, because I think it only goes back to maybe 2014 or 2013 with that, the older documents can get scanned in under case things. I'm not quite sure without being there, like how to see how we could set it up, but, and then the other documents, I'm not quite sure. It would have to be something that I would have to visually look at and determine.
Mm-hmm.
We have some really interesting documents, old documents with calligraphy writing. They're very fragile right now. You have to be very careful handling them. I know when Carol Steiger was there, she had checked into how to get these papers into a safe environment in order to get them scanned in. That's going to be the tricky part, trying to get these large, old papers scanned into the files. That would be something that we would have to also consider grants on in order to get the funds to do something like that, because it's going to be costly.
All right. My last question before closing is, why do you want to be the circuit clerk? You second.
Okay, so most of you have kids. You've told your kids, if you want something, you gotta go get it. If you can dream it, you've gotta go after it. I cannot run for this position without the fact of knowing that I have to practice what I preach. I love what I do. I love the job that I do. The work is busy every day. It's very interesting. You work with a lot of interesting people, the citizens, law enforcement, judges, attorneys. And I feel like this opportunity could make me grow and learn more. And I know that I would have a lot of support, because I know for a fact that we have great judges in our circuit.
If I were to get circuit clerk, I would be closer to home. I would have more time with my 5 children at the end of the night. I love what I do. I love working in the court system. I love working with the legalities of the things, like the documents and everything. I think it would be a better fit for my family to be back in St. Genevieve than going to St. Francis County every day.
And Ms. Boyer, you start on the 1-minute closing statements.
Right. Thank you all for coming here tonight to give us a chance to talk to you. I think being in the circuit clerk's office is a place that needs, everyone comes in, we all will be in the circuit clerk's office for, at some point in our time, whether it's a will or something to be filed, and sometimes life happens where you have a traffic ticket or something like that. And I think that our county should be treated with hospitality, and people that walk in should be treated with respect, no matter who they are, because we are all human and we all put our pants on the same way, but no one is better than anyone, and we should all be treated fairly. So I think when you walk into that office, you should be treated fairly and with a smile. So I really hope, look forward to your vote on November 6th.
right,
Not
thank
sure.
I would like to say thank you to everyone that came out tonight. It's great to see a great crowd here. It's nice to see people who want to get educated on their candidates before they go into the polling place and make a decision. One of my favorite sayings is, you must be the change you want to see in the world. And by voting, we have the opportunity to make a change. And I would please ask everyone, get out November 6th and definitely vote. Let your voices be heard. I'd like to say thank you to Toby and to the St. John Herald, and also to the St. Genevieve County Community Television for hosting the forum, and also for the Community Center for letting us use their facilities. Thank you.
Next up, we have the County Collector's Office, which is currently held by Democrat Phyllis Vessel. She is retiring, and those vying to replace her are Democrat Patty Nager and Republican Claudia Stupi. And we'll begin with Ms. Stupi for her opening statement for 2 minutes.
First of all, thank you all for coming out tonight, and thank you to the sponsors of this event, St. John Herald and the St. John County Community Access TV, as well as the Community Center for hosting us. My name is Claudia Stupi. I'm running for County Collector. I grew up in the city of St. Genevieve around the family business, Stupi Auto Sales and Wrecker Service. That taught me the value of hard work and how to provide good customer service. I went on to earn a Master of Accounting degree from the University of Missouri St. Louis. I am a certified public accountant, CPA, licensed in Missouri for nearly 10 years. My accounting experience of over 13 years includes external auditing, governmental accounting, corporate accounting, income tax, and internal audit. As an external auditor, I gained tremendous exposure to the operations, the financials, internal controls, and technologies of various size companies in various industries. I currently work at Jefferson College as the Director of Revenue and Investments, which at a high level has responsibilities relevant to the collector's office. I manage day-to-day operations, including the receipt of money coming into the college. I deal with millions of taxpayer dollars. I'm running for county collector because I want to contribute my skills and experience in accounting and business to serve this community, which I love. The current operations of the collector's office are more complex than many taxpayers realize. It is important that the collector have accounting, auditing, and technological experience. I bring that experience to the table. I am highly qualified to lead and manage the operations as they are today and into the future as things change. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Ms. Dacre?
Thank you all for coming. I'm Patty Nager. I'm running for County Collector. I'm a lifetime resident of St. Genevieve. I am the daughter of Valentine and the late Rose Nager. I am one of 10 kids. As y'all may know, my brothers and sisters, we are very hard workers. We don't quit till we get the job done. I worked in the public for 38 years. I am in a cash-based business where I do deposits and I do checks and balances. I also deal with people that are upset sometimes, and I'm capable of handling that. And if there would be, like, I checked into the county system, and it's Tyler Technology, and the program is Inbox, and I would be becoming more aware of it and learning it. And if there'd be some kind of thing that my job could offer for more for the county, I'd be willing to pursue it and take care of it. Thank you.
The first question will go to Ms. Nager, and that is, what characteristics do you possess that you believe will make you successful in the position?
I've been with the public all my life, and I know how to deal with them. And I think just associating with the public and learning how to do money in that, I think I could do a good job.
The characteristics that I believe are beneficial for the county collector are, first and foremost, my accounting experience, my auditing experience. My experience with financial analysis, digging into accounts, trying to figure out if something's wrong, what's wrong, how to fix it. I have tremendous experience with seeing a lot of different companies' operations. I can bring that to the office as far as taking an outside look to the internal controls to see where can things be improved, if they can be improved. There's not a lot of room for change, but I can look at things with fresh eyes and bring my accounting experience. Thank you.
You're jumping ahead on some of my questions, which was, what specific experience or education has prepared you to be the county collector?
I would say all of my accounting experience, particularly my time in public accounting, auditing various companies, my experience at Jefferson College right now. Jefferson College is a quasi-governmental entity. They have to follow governmental accounting standards. So part of my job is to make sure that we are following governmental accounting standards. I deal with taxpayer dollars at Jefferson College, millions of dollars. So definitely my accounting experience.
I think just I took some office procedure classes in accounting and Excel and that, and I think with those classes and with pursuing them and just keep on working with them, I would be able to learn. I'm a fast learner and a hard worker, and I'd be able to adapt to it.
Do you foresee any changes in how the office operates?
Basically, it's a state statute. You can't really change it. I mean, you can try to better it a little bit, but it's set rules.
I think, so yeah, there's not a lot of room for change. The collector has to follow the Missouri state statutes. There could be opportunities, I believe, for putting more information online, making information more accessible to people, whether it's an individual taxpayer or, say, a title company or an abstract company. That's something that I would look into if elected.
All right. Actually, I was going to ask, what plans do you have to utilize technology in a way that might benefit county residents or others who have business with the collector's office?
Yeah, basically what I just said. I'd like to make information more accessible to people who need it.
That is true. And do online stuff, get people involved in it, and have stuff out there for them to check out.
Let me try and be more specific then. Is there a plan that you would have to implement that and work with the public to inform them of how to use that technology? We'll start with Ms. Nager.
I would try to get stuff in the paper and let people know that there might be like a seminar, so we can kind of get them in there and get them to know everything that's going on.
Could you repeat that question?
I didn't write that one down. It was, how would you implement that and inform the public of the changes that are made in technology?
Well, first of all, you'd have to take a look to see how the systems could hook into each other, how the information would be fed into the system. So that it would take work to get things up and running, to make sure systems can talk to each other. First of all, to see what's even out there, what's available. But beyond that, one of the things you could do is putting something in the newspaper. You could put it on the county website, possibly social media. I know the county doesn't, to my knowledge, use social media a whole lot, but we could look into something like that.
What has inspired you to run for this office? And we'll start with Ms. Doopy.
I would say getting back to this community and being part of this community, wanting to use my skills and experience to improve where possible, to make a positive impact in the community. I know I have what it takes to lead and manage the office. Like I said, as things are today and in the future, as things change, if this county would, if the tax revenues would grow to the point where we would be a first-class county, there would be changes. I know that I am capable of leading the office, managing through changes.
Like I said, I've lived here all my life, and I would like to give back to St. Genevieve what they gave to me. They taught me how to grow and how to learn about all of the stuff in this town. And I like the opportunity to kind of help them and show them.
My last question would be with the new person taking over the office. Do you foresee anything in terms of staffing for the office and how that might look in the future? Ms. Nager.
I say the staff that's in there will stay. I mean, I have no problem. The best thing you could do is keep everything running in a nice, calm order.
Yeah, I would value the experience of the employees in the office now, particularly one of the deputies has been in there around 10 years. I value that knowledge and that experience. That's not something that you would want to just get rid of. Definitely I would keep what we have and then, yeah, go from there.
All right, and closing statements, if you'd like to begin, Ms. Doopy.
Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. I'd like to take a moment to also thank my supporters throughout this campaign, including all the property owners who have hosted my signs. I appreciate each one of you. With a strong professional background in accounting and auditing, my skills and experience would serve the county well as your next collector. I am well qualified to uphold the integrity of the office and manage change. I do want to take a second to, this didn't come up in the questions, I want to take a second to say, you know, for those who don't understand, the collector cannot raise or lower your taxes. The collector cannot change the distribution of taxes or cause more revenue to stay in the county. The collector serves as a fiduciary of funds and is expected to uphold the laws of Missouri, and I know that I can do that. This race is for the office of county collector should not be about politics. It should not be about party or popularity. This should be about what is in the best interest of this county. Experience matters. Vote experience. I, Claudia Stupi, would be honored to have your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming and participating in this forum. And I appreciate for listening to everything I had to say. And I appreciate your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, for presiding commissioner, Democrat Gary Nelson is seeking re-election to office, and he is facing challengers Kenny Williams from the Republican Party and independent Micah Rousey. We'll begin with the 2-minute opening statements, and that'll start with Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Toby. Thank you for you all coming out tonight and giving up your evening to come to a political candidate forum. My name is Kenny Williams. I'm 60 years old, and my wife Donna is here with me tonight. This November, we'll be married for 41 years. We have 4 children, and I'm a candidate for presiding commissioner, and I've been involved in the family excavating business for over 42 years. And now I'm the owner of Williams Construction and Excavating LLC and have been for a few years now. I'm served on the board of directors and as chairman for many years of the St. John Area Center for Life, doing business as options for women. Also, I served on the area RC&D through the Soil and Water Conservation Department, and in 2011 organized the largest waste tire collection in the state of Missouri. They said if all these tires would be equivalent to car tire weight, there would have been 84,000 tires collected. And I and my two sons who work for my company are certified for on-site waste disposal. Septic systems is what that is. And we are trained for that on how to do a proper system. I'm director of men's prayer breakfast up at St. Genevieve First Baptist Church, and I help organize the women's breakfast up there on the first Saturday, a free breakfast offered to anybody in the community that wants to attend. Chairman of the Republican Central Committee, and I've served as chairman of the 24th Judicial Committee. I used to be a Democrat, I had sat one, and as the Democratic Party values began to shift away from the values I was taught by my Christianity, I had to make a decision of if I was going to stay with the party or make a change. And I looked at the party platforms and the Republican Party platform and the rules that we guide our candidates by and the values we stand for most fit my faith, and I had to switch parties. I, at the time, was not happy about it, but it was what needed to be done. So I am diligent on trying to keep the values in our party and to stand up for family values. The working people are important to
Mr.
me.
Williams?
And
Mr. Williams, we'll move on to Mr. Nelson.
okay, thank you very much.
You took a minute of my time.
All right, okay.
Okay, my name is Gary Nelson. I am running for re-election. I've been commissioner since 2005. When you're running for a political office, you make commitments, you make promises, and you see a lot of people get in office and they don't fulfill those promises. So I brought with me one of the articles I put in the paper in 2004, what my priorities would be if I was elected commissioner. The number one was to develop a road and bridge plan to improve the roads and bridges in our county. To do that, it took money. We tried to get a sales tax passed 2 different times and it failed. So the third time, we started thinking, how are you gonna get citizens of St. Genevieve, the city of St. Genevieve, to vote for it? So we promised the citizens, the St. Genevieve city, 23.5% of our taxes, Bloomsdale, St. Mary's, each 1.5%, and it passed. So since then, we've had more money to pay more roads, more bridges, fix more bridges, and still help the city of St. Genevieve and the 2 other cities improve their roads. My other priority was promote economic development, which we do. I'm on 4 different committees, 4 boards for economic development. My other priority was to work with the city and other county entities to promote more recreation for our youth and our young adults. Since we live in a historical town, a lot of these kids have been forgotten because we try to protect our historical houses, which we need to. My other commitment was to take this as a full-time job. I do take this seriously as a full-time job. I work every day. If I'm not in the courthouse, I'm not on the roads or checking bridges or inside a meeting.
And Mr. Rousey?
Hi, I'm Micah Rousey, the independent candidate for presiding commissioner. My platform for St. Genevieve County is to ensure our government is visible, accessible, and responsible. And here's how that can be accomplished. Accessibility. Citizens in St. Genevieve County are powerless to affect change within the commission. Citizens should have some power within their government. And I would make that happen by passing into law initiative and referendum clauses where citizens who find it necessary to be involved have the ability to force the commission to act and add ballot measures by petition. Visibility. We should have the ability to engage our commission members when it is convenient for us and to easily learn what our government is doing. The county website should be a portal for engagement for the citizens. All board meetings, agendas, and minutes should be available to the public without individuals having to ask for them. All documents, including financial data, the public has the right to see, should be easily found. And 3, responsibility. Responsibility means seeking to understand all of the needs of the county and prioritizing how tax dollars are spent to best meet those needs for the biggest impact. It means requiring having data and facts before a new project is approved. It means prioritizing stretches of road to pave by the citizens impacted. It is also responsible for your government to be accessible and visible. It all ties together in what defines a good government. The presiding commissioner is the top executive position in the county. Executives provide oversight to all departments, not just the ones they have knowledge in. They seek to learn what they don't know, have plans for growth, and provide leadership. These are the things that I have provided to multiple companies in my professional career and government organizations, and will provide to St. Genevieve County if elected.
Thank you very much. On this one, we'll go with the order of, we'll start with Mr. Nelson, come back down here to Mr. Rousey, and then finish with Mr. Williams. Ideally, we'll keep that kind of order in place if we can keep the microphones squared away and where it's going. First question is, if you were a teacher giving out grades, how would you grade the county commission's effectiveness and performance in the last 4 years? What areas do you think have been good and what areas need improvement? And we'll start with Mr. Nelson.
Well, I would definitely give our road and bridge plan an A. I would give our sheriff's department an A. I feel that the county is a lot better shaped today than what it was 4 years ago. It's a lot better than what it was 14 years ago. I'm sure my 2 colleagues here or opponents are going to probably rate them all D or F, but I feel that the county is in good shape, good, financially strong. When I took office, we had a 0 ending balance that year. Now our ending balances will be somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000 this year. So I think that's pretty good.
All right. Mr. Rousey?
So I hate to have to actually give it a letter grade, but I'll say a C minus. I agree with Gary that our roads are in good shape. We're making good progress in that, and thanks to the people of St. Genevieve County for passing that tax back then so that we could get that in place. The plan is good to continue to have all of the roads paved, and I think that will happen without any commission in place. We know what that plan is, and it'll continue. The reason for the C minus, I think, is we have incredibly high taxes here in this county. In 2006, our sales tax was 1%, and it is now 3%. So I have zero doubt of why we have a balance in our budget, and it's easy to balance that budget because we're just taxed to no end. And we also have a number of tech challenges. I have multiple degrees in technology and business, and I would bring those to start solving the problems that we have heard about tonight in our tech challenges in the other offices within the county government. And I believe I'm the best candidate to be able to enact that kind of change.
So back when I was in school at St. John High School, it didn't go by A, B, C, or D. 65 was right at the line. Below that was a failing grade and on up from there. So I would give the county a 75%, and I really am here to speak up for the dusty county roads. I mentioned this 4 years ago, that if we would have had a plan to set up an asphalt plant here and get all the roads paved at once and borrow the money to do so. We borrow money for other issues, but my Aunt Norma, when I was a young boy, I went to her place fishing over there on a dusty gravel road. She's lived over there for 50 years or more. She has passed on now, and she never got the opportunity not to drive in dust. There's large grain storage facilities over there. During harvest time, the whole hillside is white with dust from the road. And the dust by the DNR is said to be hazardous to health. We need to get these roads paved, and whenever I'm out campaigning, that's the #1 issue they mention. And it bothers them that, matter of fact, is there any deadline when we'll finally get done with them? Back when I run 4 years ago, it was gonna take another 15 years to finish them all. They accelerated the paving some now. Tell me when I'm done now here. I'm done already? Hey, I was just getting started. You gotta speak up.
You got, when that gets lifted
I've
up,
flipped
you
off,
got
sorry.
10 seconds.
Oh, I ain't looking that way, I'm looking that way. You're upstanding over here.
It's peripheral.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Rousey, I mentioned the taxes, so I guess I'll know the answer to part of this question from you. But the question is, do you feel that county residents face too much of a burden in local taxes, and how would you try to address that?
Absolutely, I think we do have too high of a tax burden for our population, particularly in sales taxes. Sales taxes disproportionately affect lower income families than do other types of taxes like property taxes. And when we, not so long ago, replaced an unneeded property tax with a sales tax, it was exactly the wrong thing to do for this county. But, you know, while we have this road plan in place, and while we have these construction plans in place for the community center, other buildings, what we don't have is a plan in place to relieve the people of these taxes. So when the roads are all paved, and it's less expensive than it was 15, 20 years ago to maintain our roads because they're all paved now, where is the plan for the tax relief? There needs to be a plan put in place now to make sure that we're relieved of the taxes that we don't need anymore.
Mr. Williams?
So, I really think we need more honesty when we go out to ask for a tax also, because I've got the official ballot in front of me on April the 4th, 2017, when they asked for the half-a-cent tax for the community center and improvements and things like that. And they said, if you pass this tax, is what Prop B says, then we'll take the library tax off, but that if you don't pass the tax, then the library tax stays on. So it's kind of a leverage to make sure the tax passed. And as far as the road paving tax, by the time we get all the roads paved, and I've heard from some out there that they're gonna need to start resurfacing some of the first ones, because this has been spread out over so many years. So I don't know how we'll ever be able to get rid of the road paving tax, which in 2017 brought in $899,179.79. But there's a lot of resurfacing gonna need to be done soon.
Okay. Okay, for one thing, every tax that's passed is voted on by the voters. We felt we needed ambulance sheds in more places than just here in the city. So an ambulance tax passed. Our law enforcement sales tax. We were a training ground for deputies. They come here, get trained, and move on to higher paying jobs. Now our deputies are the higher paid people, and they're staying. A road bridge tax, it was needed. We'd only be paving 2 or 3 miles of road without it. And then the community center tax. I'm very adamant that I'd like to see the recreation for the youth and the young adults. We lose too many kids and young adults every year because they get out of high school, they get out of college, they leave this town, they don't come back because there's just not that much to do. I think this will help retain our youth and our young adults in this community.
Are you sure you're giving us 2 minutes?
One minute.
Oh, 1 minute, no.
It's only 1 minute.
Otherwise, you'd be here all night. I only have 20 more questions to go for you, Gary. We'll start with Mr. Williams on this one. What experience do you have in working with budgets that you believe would be helpful if you're elected? And what challenges do you foresee for the county budget in the future?
I've been involved with the company budget for many years on trying to make things balance out on expense and cost of machinery and purchase of machinery and fuel and items like that, and parts, and searching for parts, different places to get things to balance out. But the Options for Women Pregnancy Center has quite a large budget. We reach St. John and Perry County, and I've been given the duty of putting together kind of going over the budget there. We have a real good lady that takes care of the treasury, and reports everything that's spent, so it's kind of easy there. And there's kind of a guidelines that go by with the county too, because this county's been here for a lot of years. So when we look at the existing budget and see where the money's going, I don't think it'd be that big a challenge to kind of look where things are going and make adjustments if needed and report to the people different situations and get their input of what they think means a lot too.
Mr. Nelson?
Well, working with the superintendents of schools, when I was on the school board, we have large budgets. I learned then it was a guessing game, so you'll be careful how you guess. Working with the county and with our elected officials, the budget is a guessing game. So if you have to be careful, compare to the last year's, and we always compare to the last 2 years' expenses and revenues when we set our budgets. Sometimes we have to amend it at the end of the year. I think it's hard to do. It's just a guessing game. So with that, I'll pass it on.
Mr. Rousey?
Well, I have to disagree that balancing a budget and creating a budget is a guessing game. So I'm on the executive team for St. Louis Children's Hospital. I'm the Director of Business Intelligence and Analytics. I deal with IT budgets. And before that, I had a long career in project management, mostly for government projects and applying technology to those projects. I would manage the technology budget for multi-million-dollar projects, billion-dollar projects, including some very large things like the levy investigation project for the California levy system. I also managed the software and the budget for software for the National Park Service Safety Audit program that was managed out of the Sacramento office for URS. I'm a certified project manager with URS. URS is also the company that built the Wholesome plant here. So my experience with budgets and financial data has me well prepared for St. Genevieve County.
All right. This question will start with Mr. Nelson. What role can and should the commissioner play in economic development and creating jobs in St. Genevieve County?
Well, us three commissioners sits on 4 boards. The RPC, Economic Development Board out of Perryville. I'm on the Workforce Development Board out of Cape. We work closely with Sandra Cabot, who is our Economic Development. And we also, Director, and we also have a 4-county, we put together about 10 years ago, a 4-county Economic Development Group. We go out trying to get the big companies, like the car plants, the railroad car building companies, people like that, that's gonna come in and deploy, 200, 300, 400 people. There's just not that type of jobs out there right now, or companies out there, but we go every month to our meetings, and we bring back what we can and work with it.
Mr. Rousey?
So I think one of the things that a lot of people forget about when you're trying to attract companies to an area is that you have to sell them on the people. So we have to be able to, as a commission, understand the people that are here in St. Genevieve County, and we need to be able to attract more people to St. Genevieve County, first without the jobs or a promise of the jobs. It takes a salesperson. And it takes a business person to be able to talk to the businesses that might build some infrastructure here. And without that, we'll be stuck in the same place that we are with a mine that has a 100-year timeline. I have plans to make sure that this community lasts longer than 100 years. If I am blessed with grandchildren, they'll be here then. So I think that I have that type of business experience to talk to the businesses that might want to come here and sell them on the people of St. Genevieve.
Mr. Williams?
I think it's gonna be a challenge to create jobs here right now. I spoke with a guy that works at Gilster's. Gilster's is 125 employees short right now. They need to hire another 125. They pay good down there. What I would like to see, we used to have a Pizza Hut, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a Taco Bell. Pizza Hut was first place the wife and I went on a date when I started dating her many years ago. And we used to have a Grandpa's, we used to have an Alco store. If we're dependent so much on sales tax revenue here, it would be good to get more businesses in St. John. Some people keep telling me when I'm out there campaigning, we're gonna build a water park here, but you can't even buy a swimming suit in St. Genevieve. So we really need to increase our jobs and the sales here so we can make more sales tax.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Rousey on this question, which is that there's been some opposition to the process that led to the building of the water park, which we've heard a little bit tonight. If elected, how would you use your role as commissioner to help the water park be successful?
Well, with my MBA, certainly I have the education to help make that water park successful. It is going to be an uphill battle. You know, the feasibility study that was commissioned from Councilman Hunsaker said that we would lose money. They're the pros. I thought their traffic estimate was way over than what would actually be, so I think we're gonna lose even more money on it. However, I have turned around dying companies before. I think we have a uphill battle from the start, and we need a better plan than what I've heard is it'll be fine. I know that we have the tax base now to support operations past what we'll lose. However, that's supposed to be a 20-year tax. So is this $10 million investment going to survive when we don't have that tax base anymore? We borrowed the $10 million against that 20-year tax, and those losses in operations can be covered by that, but if we don't have a plan to turn it around within 20 years, we will again be asking for a forever tax. But I would rather close the water park down than turn that tax into something that will support operations forever.
All right, Mr. Williams.
I think it's gonna be a challenge to make it work out. From what I've seen, it kind of turned a lot of people against it whenever they didn't realize there wasn't even enough water up here for it. It kind of showed there wasn't enough research done into it. So I heard that St. Charles had to shut their water park down one day because not enough lifeguards showed up. And it says we're gonna need 5 full-time employees, 125 trained lifeguards and other people working on it. It's gonna be a cost all year long to maintain the water park. It's just not, and it's only gonna be open maybe 3 to 4 months out of the year unless we can get more global warming, and I'm for that. But it just looks like it's gonna be a real challenge, and I hope it works out. But the citizens around here said, Kenny, what we want is our outdoor swimming pool like we had up at the city park. That's what we miss. So we wouldn't have had to overscale this big time. Just give them an outside swimming pool would have satisfied everybody. And it'd be a lot easier to maintain. And I'm not done, but he said I gotta quit.
I'm very optimistic about the water park. We got one of the smartest people I know is director of the community center up here, and he will make it work. As commissioners, we support the board when they brought us a program. We support the director. When Dave Weber and Brad brought it to us and they brought all the paperwork, our kids have done, why should our kids do without what our surrounding counties' kids have and can enjoy it? So I'm very optimistic and very much support this project and our Bloomdale Community Center project.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Williams on this question, and there's going to be back-to-back questions on accessibility. So for the first one, if we could try to keep it as close to the first topic as we can here. Are you in favor of any night meetings for the commission, and would you ask other offices in the county to be available to the public during those hours? And Mr. Williams.
If they would be people attend, I've been at other meetings and held them in the evening and nobody shows up, so they would have to definitely be an interest of people showing up. And if we're made more available by phone in the evenings, and if we need to call special meetings, I think that would be great. But I don't want to have a meeting just for the sake of having a meeting. There's got to be an issue and people's got to show up. I'm a type guy that wants to get something done. So we wouldn't set up evening meetings if there was no agenda for sure to cover, but if there was, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
All right, Mr. Nelson?
Night meetings has been tried in the past years ago in our commission. It didn't work out that well. St. Francis County, they did try it this past year. The first night they had 3 people show up. The rest of that month they didn't have anybody come in, so they scrapped it. Now, I agree with Kenny, a special meeting would be fine. But when you have a meeting with the commission on Mondays and Thursdays, all the office holders, one way or the other, it takes part of that meeting. We sign checks, where the sheriff's always coming in, down, the prosecuting attorney, everybody. So it's not just 3 commissioners having a meeting. It takes the whole courthouse being open to have a regular meeting.
Well, I think, of course, I'm for night meetings, just because I think our government needs to be accessible to the people. There is obviously an interest in the people in what our government is doing. Look at the crowd here. We had to move this to another venue because the other venue was too small. This one is too small. For those in front, look behind you. It's standing room only. Of course, there are a couple empty rows. Nobody wants to sit in the front. But, if we started with at least once a month, there is at least an issue that could go on the agenda that the public want to be involved and can't make regular meetings during the day. So have one once a month. And it doesn't have to be at the courthouse, and it doesn't have to have the same agenda as the commissioner meetings. We have 2 commissioner meetings a week, and St. Francis County has 1. So, really, we're meeting for the sake of meeting, but not at a time that people can attend. And so we need that one time, and it needs to be advertised for people to show up. They don't show up because they don't know what's happening. And they don't have accessibility to the rest of their government because they don't know that it's there. So we need to utilize the website. It's all part of that process.
That was leading into the next question about what do you have in mind to improve the public's accessibility to the commission and transparency for the commission? What costs do you anticipate would be involved, and how do you plan to address those costs? Mr. Nelson. What plans do you have in mind to improve the public's accessibility to the commission and the transparency of the commission? And what costs would you anticipate would be involved, and how do you plan to address those costs?
Mr. Nelson, yes.
I don't have any plans to change your meetings. We stay there as long on Mondays and Thursdays as needed, as far as getting communication with people. It's been Mondays and Thursdays for 50 years. Everybody knows when the commission meets. We get people walk in all the time. We get phone calls. They know when to call. They know when to come in. Then tax season, when they're paying their taxes, people out in outlying counties comes in and just visits with us. But I've got no plans to change the meetings.
Mr. Rousey.
So, like I mentioned before, I think our accessibility is easily met through at least utilizing our website. If you go onto the St. Genevieve County website right now and look at the calendar, there's no entry, not a single one, for the entire year. And I think that's kind of embarrassing. Our county should be utilizing its website as, again, a portal to involve the community. There was a question with the collector race about whether we should utilize social media. I think absolutely we should. If you go onto my campaign page on Facebook, I'm very proud of this little badge that says very responsive. You don't have to call me during a specific time. You can call me anytime. You can send me a Facebook message anytime. You can send me an email anytime. My road signs say how to get a hold of me. And so that starts with the top. If the top is accessible and starts utilizing the website and social media to make sure everything is open to the people, it opens themselves up to criticism, and it also makes them available.
Mr. Williams?
So to find out what the commission is doing, the St. John Herald's been real good at publishing that, but there is other information available at the courthouse. And I do feel a little imposing on the ladies, even though they're real nice to tell me anything that I wish. And if it was on the website where I could pull it up, like I'm always interested in how many miles of county road there is, 224.24. That's pretty neat to find that information out. And if that's listed on our website, how much Perry County's got 430 miles of county road to deal with. So they're on a lot. But information, if it was available on the website, I think would be really serving to the citizens here, to where you can pull up, see what's going on. Set a goal of when you're gonna have the roads paved, set a goal when you're gonna have the water park done. If we're building a water park, set a goal when it'll be done, the first opening. All you guys for it needs to buy an advance tickets already. So that'll help fund it some. But I really think we need to be more open.
All right, on this question, we'll start with Mr. Rousey, I believe, right? Yeah, Mr. Rousey, Ms. Williams.
I wasn't keeping track, but okay.
How many hours per week do you feel the position requires? How do you plan to adjust your schedule if you're currently employed in another position?
I would guess that it's a 40-hour-a-week job, and I'm okay with that. When I first thought to run for this position, I first asked my wife if it would be okay. And while she says that she doesn't recall saying yes, the next person I asked was my employer. And BJC has committed to me the time necessary to complete this job. Like I said before, I work in technology and leadership. Much of my work for St. Louis Children's Hospital can be done at home. I currently do a lot of it at home and in off hours. So I would fill in any time that I needed to be on the executive of this county with that job as well. It's not the first time I've had two jobs. If you knew me well enough, you would know that I'm a very motivated person. I have the drive and the experience to do this job.
Mr. Williams.
So I would think it would be a 40-hour or more per week, being new at the job, till I get to learn everything about the county process and what goes on and get to know some of the people. I am the owner of an excavating company, and my two sons work for me, and my son Jonathan is up in Jefferson City for a 4-day training session up there on the installing of on-site septics, even the advanced system. So these boys are being trained, and they understand that they're gonna take on more and more responsibilities, especially if I get a different job. It's gonna be their job to run things at the company. So it looks like they're doing a good job, and they're following the experience that I have had, and it looks like it's gonna work real well.
Mr. Nelson?
Okay, I'm not gonna say I work 40 hours a week, but I do work every day. If I'm not in the courthouse, I'm out with the road crew, the other two commissioners, looking at roads, looking at, before we pave them, make sure they're ready to meet our standards. But more importantly, we've belonged to 8 different boards, 9 if you wanna count the St. Genevieve Community Forum. Most of these meetings are out of town. If you go to them, so far in the last 5 years, 6 years, we've got over $1,200,000 for roads and bridges and grants, because we were at the meetings to know that they was taking place. The money was available. We got $262,000 for the farmers to clean up the levees down in the big field, because we was in Cape Girardeau, and we knew that money became available. So I'm not saying 40 hours like with the time clock, but being available every day to go where you need to be is very important.
All right, we'll start this one with Mr. Williams. Do you think there is an issue with the Commission's current procedure in appointing members of various boards and committees? And if so, how would you improve the process?
I'm not really sure how to answer that until I would look into it more. I do know, like the Water Department, Ambulance District, and Hostel Board is all elected positions, but the Community Center is appointed positions, and I was wondering why it's not an elected position and let the citizens decide who should serve on the board, and we might get a little different arrangement of people serving, but I really don't have a whole lot to say about that at this time until I know more about it.
All right. Mr. Nelson?
Well, we do appoint several boards. Some of them are statutorial, the way they're appointed. The Law Enforcement Restitution Fund, for example, is statutorial. Some of them, this past year, we've been begging people, is in the paper even, to get on the mental health board. We try to get people on the board that's got experience in whatever that board is doing. The Senior Citizens Board, you know, it's got a criteria, you have to be a senior citizen to be on that board. But we like to get active people in the community on the boards. And, some of them, as I said, are statutorial the way you appoint them. Some of them, we got an envelope hanging on our wall, a couple of names on people once on a board when one becomes available. They just want to be active. So there is no really cut and dry way to do it.
All right. Mr. Rousey?
Well, I think we probably have too many board positions to go through an election process for every one of them. However, part of the government outreach should include, these are the boards we have, these are the positions on them. Part of the visibility is, these are who are serving those positions and when they expire. So rather than if someone is still interested in serving on a board, just matter-of-factly say, okay, you can still be on it and reappoint them. Let's make that known to the public that now this is available, this will be coming available, the incumbent still wants to be on the board, but is there anyone else interested? And it's a part of outreach. So yeah, advertised in the paper, no offense to the paper, but it's not the only place where people get their information. You know, in some countries, Facebook is synonymous with news. And it's not the same in the United States, thankfully. However, we have an opportunity to use social media to engage our public much more than we are. And we can do that through the website.
All right, this is the last question I have. If elected, how would you use your role in trying to address the opioid situation or other social issues and the services that need to respond to those needs? I'll start with Mr. Nelson.
Well, the county has joined what you call a class action lawsuit to try to get the pharmaceutical companies to take responsibility for a lot of these deaths with overdoses and things. I mean, I had a little brother die of an overdose, so I know from the ground floor how it can devastate a family. But I went to the thing to Baptist Church 2 weeks ago, and that lady was fantastic. I would like to see everybody in the county attend one of those programs. It was very touching. She was very good. But, working with the hospitals, the sheriff's department, ambulance district, you know, whatever they need, and we can help them legally, we'll help them with it.
Mr. Rousey?
We were all at that information session on the opioid crisis, and it was very informative. I'm glad we all were there. So it's important that it's whoever wins this election does know that that is front of mind issue for the county. And the way it's addressed, that issue or that education session was really talking about how to treat someone during an overdose. What it wasn't was how can governments help the problem. And that really starts with education, outreach, and enforcement and counseling. So in order to get the money to do that, though, this commission needs to be the St. Genevieve County representation to the state and federal funding agencies that will find that money to help us with that problem. If we're not going out to search for those grants and those opportunities, and we're only looking internally in what departments we have that can service them, what we're going to find is we're going to run out of money.
Mr. Williams?
So I went to a meeting at the health department, and the health department is desperate to try to make a difference, and they're calling the pastors together to see what the churches can do to get involved, and that's one reason that the meeting was held up at our church. It's a big issue, and some people try to keep their problems hidden, and the whole message is, if you got a problem, let's all hear about it, let's all work together. There's no stones to be thrown at nobody, but let's save the lives out there and let's reach out and make a difference. And a lot of this is prescription medicine, prescription painkillers, and I've heard different testimony that this stuff is so powerful, addictive, that even people that's well-to-do and well-off, once they take this stuff, it's really hard to get off of it. And I really recommend anybody go ahead and suffer a little pain and take anything that could destroy their life.
I thank you all for your participation. We will have the 1-minute closing statements. I'm sorry, there's probably more topics that I could have got to tonight, but I figure this is a good time to wrap it up. So we'll start Mr. Rousey and work down this way.
So as I've said, I think the position of presiding commissioner should be considered the top executive position for the county. And to address the things that I'm involved in within this county, I'm a member of the St. John Lions Club, a member of the Missouri Farm Bureau, and a member of the Society for Information Managers. I have a varied education. I have an AA in humanities, a Bachelor's of Science in Business Information Systems, and a Master's of Business Administration in Information Management. We've listened to some of the challenges in other departments in the county of technology, and I'm probably the best person at this table to help solve those problems. I would be very active within the county and their government offices to ensure that we can solve those challenges, and I believe I would be the best person for the job. So please vote Micah Andrew Rousey for presiding commissioner on November 6th. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
So I've been involved in many things over the years, and they know I'm a person that'll take action. When the Soil and Water didn't want to deal with the RC&D, they said, call Kenny, he'll do it. So I signed on as an auxiliary board member. We was able to do the waste tire collection, and problem solving has kind of been somewhat of a gift. Someone dropped rubber tracks off on us there, and the DNR said, Kenny, we can't take those. Okay, I hauled them home, and I got this idea. I flipped them on edge, filled them with dirt, and now I've got over 20 of them as raised gardens, and I've been collecting other ones and sharing them with neighbors. They work excellent, and I've got problem-solving abilities that can help the county, and my customers know that. A lot of you guys know me, and I'm not afraid to take on a challenge. And I just want your vote on November the 6th, because November the 5th is my anniversary, and be my anniversary present from you guys to vote for me. 41 years, so give me your vote. Thanks.
I'm not giving you a present. Okay, if I'm reelected, I'm gonna continue pushing our road crews to the limit. Just with the time and money we have available to pave every road possible, and at the same time replace 2 or 3 low water crossings as we go. And we'll also continue to promote economic development. It's not easy. The jobs just aren't out there. The businesses aren't out there, but we'll still keep trying. I'll continue to work with the city. I think we got a good relationship with the city, the sheriff's department, the police department. I'll continue working with them. I'll also continue to keep a close eye on the budget. We've got a good solid budget now. We will need to keep it that way. And I will appreciate your vote. When's your anniversary?
November the 5th.
On November the 6th.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming out again tonight, and thanks to the Community Access Television. And have a good night and vote on November 6th.